It's showtime, folks. Welcome in Chase and Big Joe, 1025, 1063 The Game on this Wednesday. Hope you're having a great start to your day so far. I'm Chase McCabe, Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier with us, and Big Joe. What's up, JoJo?
Chaser, what's going on, man? I ought to give you my daily Donaldson Pike update. It's awful, and take extra caution going through there. And stay off your phones when you go through there. I'll probably yelled at, I think, 7 people this morning. Listen, let me tell you something. When you're at a red light and you're the first car to red light, you have a very important job to do. It is to pay attention. So when that light turns green, you go. All right? So get off your phone if you're the first car to red light. You have an important job to do. That's to get the traffic going. So just a little gentle reminder today.
I agree with that. That is good advice. And, we've all been guilty of it, but there's too many times where people are on their phone and not paying attention to what they need to be doing when they're driving a car. I think it's a very simple PSA not to do that.
Yeah. So that's your PSA for today, especially on Donaldson Pike. And by the way, I might run for mayor one day in this town on the whole premise.
I'll vote for you.
My whole platform is synchronizing red lights. That's it. That's my whole goal, is synchronizing red lights in this town. I think if we could do that, I think we'd be a lot happier and traffic would move a little more smoothly around town. So there you go.
Well, cool.
So I'm throwing my bald head in the race for 2031. I should be out of jail by then.
Well, you're not in jail. I mean, what are you calling this show? You're calling this show jail?
That's right, man.
So we have a funny situation to start the show. I figured out, let's just take this to the air right now. So I am from the palatial Chase McCabe home studios today. And I have in my home studio, I have a lot of windows so I can see outside. Somebody has shown up at my house, and I think I know who it is, but they're going to start knocking in a second, and it's going to be really entertaining because I'm obviously doing a radio show and can't get up and answer.
Why did you let Stillman know where you live? That's the problem.
It's not Stillman. It's somebody that does some yard work, and they randomly just show up sometimes and don't call, don't know how a phone works, apparently.
All right, let me tell you this right now. PSA number 2 for myself today. If you knock on my door, I will come to the door and stare at you through the window, and I will not answer the door.
Yeah.
Well, so don't come by.
Sawyer's not going to let me open the door. That's the problem.
Well, good. Smart dog. But yeah, so don't come by the house.
Yeah, so I'm currently sitting here. Okay, he's leaving now. Kind of not. I was like leaned down, like I really can't answer, so hopefully he doesn't see me.
Oh my goodness, that's the most exercise you've gotten in years.
Oh, shut up. So during COVID, that actually happened, and I have cameras, and we kind of live in a camera society now, and so I like this random person just kept knocking on the front door and it turns out. That's when I found out that one of my friends had a friend that lives across the street, and they thought that this was their house, and they were dog sitting, and that happened live on the air.
Oh, the old I'm at the wrong house air quote thing, yeah. Again, don't answer the door. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's where we are. Random start to the show. Hope you're having a great day. You can weigh in at 615-737-1025. That's our phone and text line. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and where you can answer our question of the day.
Yeah, so this is kind of a thing. The draft's coming up, and you always talk about when they talk to the guys who get drafted afterwards, like, hey, what advice did you get or this and that? And some of like, my dad told me this, my mom told me this. So our question of the day is what's the best advice you've ever gotten? Does not have to be sports, does not have to be your mom and dad, but in one sentence, what's the best advice you've ever gotten in your entire life? One that sticks with you today, that resonates in your head, the best advice you've ever gotten. We want to hear from you. 615-737-1025. Love for you to call, text, whatever. But again, the best advice.
Mine's pretty simple. And you kind of are a part of this. It's like different phrasing, but basically the same thing. And I credit, you and Darren and Willie, several others. But when I first started at the station in this business, I didn't always have the best confidence in the world. And so it was basically be your biggest fan. Because only you are going to care what you do, and only you are going to get yourself to where you want to go. And so that was it. And I started listening to that. It took a while. I remember doing the morning show with you and Pogue, and it was kind of like every morning kind of have to pump me up. But, I got there eventually, and look at me now.
Look at you now.
Show. Now I'm doing a show with you.
Yeah, and now you're hiding from your friends at your house. I mean, you have attained a balance in your life, and I love that. All right, I got a few here. First one is, whatever you do in life, don't burn bridges. Just don't burn. Yeah. If you are disenfranchised and hate your boss, and just leave. But just hey, thank you for the opportunity. And leave. I'm telling you. I've seen so many cases where somebody can't come back to a different place because they burned a bridge. Don't burn bridges. Just don't do that. Secondly, it's very simple. Be nice until it's time to not be nice.
Yeah. Well, I totally
From James
agree.
Dalton, be nice until it's time to not be nice. And you will know when it's time to not be nice. Dr. Crane, you got one?
I think I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, you did.
Now, as I've gotten older, I know when not to be nice.
I don't want to be rude, Joe. You mind repeating the question of the day, please?
Oh, that's okay. The best advice you've ever gotten. The best. It could be mom, dad, brother, best friend, something you saw on TV, a movie, whatever. The best advice you've ever got. One sentence. Just one sentence.
I actually have a quote from my grandparents. They told me this when I was a kid, and I have it on my phone. I'll read it. Two people always told me who I look up to dearly. Quote, if you give 110% no matter what you do, the rest of life will take care of itself.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Read it again.
Sorry, I read it fast.
That's okay.
Are you nervous?
He is kind of nervous. He's emotional.
No,
it's okay.
I'm doing a lot of stuff back here. All right, let's see here.
Eating donuts is not a lot of stuff, pal.
It's pretty good. Let's see here. If you give 110%, no matter what you do in life, the rest of life will take care of itself.
Okay.
So.
Not bad. Solid advice.
Very solid advice. So that's when we want to hear from that. I mean, it's just advice is good in this world sometimes.
615-737-1025. Max Herr is going to join us today at 9:30 to talk the Preds. We think we know who the Preds are going to take on in the first round.
Oh, who do we know?
It's probably going to be Vancouver. And if Dallas gets at least a point tonight, it is for sure going to be Vancouver. So we're all on pins and needles waiting for that, and also when the playoffs actually start and the schedule. So, so the program director of the flagship station can make a schedule, which would be fun. So that's a personal problem, but there you go.
Yeah. Do you know when they're playing?
I don't. No. And you know what's funny? Like, behind the curtain talk here for a second. Everybody in there, and look, I get it. If I was in somebody else's position, I would ask me too, because it's like, okay, he probably knows. I don't have like the secret. I haven't been on the phone with Gary Bettman and like, all right, so here's what he's thinking. Like and it drives me nuts because I wish I had the answer, because I can't do anything until I know. And I'm sure the Predators feel that way, like it's just kind of that time of year where, their season ended a few days before everybody else's. And so they just kind of have to sit back like, Homer Simpson on the rooftop when the Comets come into town, like twiddling their thumbs, like, well, just kind of waiting out, see what happens. But
right.
Hopefully tomorrow, I would think the NHL would release a schedule. But it is pretty funny because people are like, have you heard anything yet? Nope. Sure haven't. So I'll let you know when I do.
Hopefully we will know it. I mean, you guys in the listening audience, our fan, we've gotten dozens and dozens of texts already on the best advice. So we'll read some of those coming up. Our question of the day, if you're just now joining us, what's the best advice you've ever gotten? One sentence is all we need to know about that as well. I want to ask you this later on. We'll get to it later on the show. But this thing about, you talk about dads giving good advice. This thing with Deion Sanders about don't draft his kids unless you're one of these 5 or 6 teams.
Yeah,
how dare you?
I know. Look, I get he's a coach now and his kids are playing for him, but that's helicopter dad too, and it's like, dude, just stay out of it.
I mean,
because all you're doing is hurting them. You're not helping them.
Yeah, that's worse than Archie Manning taking care of his big baby Eli, who didn't want to play for the Chargers, and I'm not going to go play there. I mean, that's awful. I mean, it's playing in the National Football League is a privilege. It's not a right. And I thought it was a joke. I'm like, oh, he's joking again. Then I realized he's not joking. So I want a guy who wants to be there. I mean, I just don't understand it. If you get drafted, I know Jacksonville's not one thing, but it's still part of the National Football League. If you get drafted, do it. So sometimes the advice you get is like really bad, and I think that's really bad what Deion's doing.
Yeah, I agree, but does it surprise you?
No, not at all.
You can't stay out of the way?
Nope. And now, guys are leaving Colorado en masse. I think that Colorado program is going to be a disaster after this year. And look, I like Deion. I mean, I do. I have no problem with Deion.
I thought it was going to work. I really did. I thought his shtick was going to work, and he was going to get Colorado to places they hadn't been before because he was going to play the portal game, and then he was going to go get a better job. But it seems like he's gotten in his own way. His mouth has gotten him in trouble.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why I liked this is kind of apples and oranges, but I like Connecticut winning the national championship because that team had veterans on that team, not guys bouncing in and out and going. They talked to one guy who's like, you had the opportunity to transfer, and I forget who it was. He's like, yeah, I mean, he goes, where else can I go and have a coach scream at me, but off the court, absolutely love me? And I was like, man, that's pretty solid right there. So this whole Deion thing is, I don't know, but, it goes back to the advice. Sometimes you get great advice. Sometimes you're like, huh, what are you talking about? But that's something that's going on that'll be probably talked about quite a bit come this fall.
Yes, for sure. We'll have Max Hurst coming up at 9:30 today. But our question of the day, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten? One sentence, our text line blowing up. We'll read some of your answers. Coming up next here on the Chase and Big Joe Show, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios over the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Chase and Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3, The Game on this Wednesday. A little bit rainy, cloudy today. It's April. That happens. So be careful out there. Our question of the day: what is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten? One sentence, very simple, but something that sticks with you. Let's go to the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com, 615-737-1025. Mitchell says, maintain at all costs.
Oh, yes. That's fantastic.
I'm not sure where he's going with this one, but I'll read it anyway. 0247, put a glove on it.
Oh, Chaser.
Yeah. No, I
get it now.
I kind of had an idea, but I was like, why not? I'll read it anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Kyle, a gram of prevention is worth an ounce of cure.
That's old wisdom. His grandpa must have installed that in him. That's nice.
Here's a good one, and it's true. It's prom season. 5772 says, my dad told me before I left for prom, quote, it only takes one time. That's all he said to me. Sometimes
the bluntness and the brutal honesty works perfect, but yeah, that's fantastic.
This is a good one. 1589. My coach told me this quote, and it stayed with me forever. You have to quit caring what other people think about you.
I tell people all the time, you'd be surprised how little other people think about you. You would be surprised how little other people will think about you. And that's great advice right there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that I know a lot of people struggle with, and I have struggled with it. I still struggle with it. And the thing I love about doing this show with you is, we're very transparent on a lot of things, because sometimes we all just need to talk, and you do your thing at the end talking about mental health, and if you need somebody to call. I mean, look, it's a hard world to live in.
It is
sometimes, and not complaining, love what we do, but especially sometimes the scrutiny that another good piece of advice is, or not advice necessarily, but just a comment about what we do is, I don't envy you, because everything you say gets scrutinized. Like you're going to have, I could say, the Titans are going to take Joe Alt at 7. You idiot, they're going to take a receiver. Like it goes to that, or something completely different. But that was one of the hardest things for me once I got into this is, I don't care. And you kind of have to put up that wall and have thick skin, and it does change you in a good way at times, because you got to go in and just kind of do your thing and make your decision. But it's a hard thing to do.
You do. Look, listen, I went to 5 funerals last year, suicides, and some of the people that you and I know. And, it's a thing like, well, they just, they lost hope. And so that's my thing is like, you always got hope, man. You can find hope anywhere you want to. You can find it. But my heart breaks for the families. I mean, these are people that we knew, and they just felt like they had no hope. And so that's why the message is so transparent every day. And I've talked to many guys who've like, man, we've all been to that point. So that's why, the advice thing today was like, what, some advice that just, you think about, what they're going to think about me. Look, what, who cares what they think about you? Just know that you're doing the best job you can. And kind of go forward with that. So that's it. Again, the best advice that you've ever gotten somebody, you've gotten from, it doesn't have to be your parents. It can be anything that goes on and what you want to do. So here's one that made me laugh, and it said, Joe, what'd you do with it? Where'd it go? It was the great Dwight Schrute line from The Office. If you're going to do something and you think to yourself, hey, would an idiot do that? Then don't do that, because that's what an idiot would do. That's the great Dwight Schrute from The Office. I lost the text. I like this one, 2839 from my dad. There's no better way to predict the future than look at the past. That's solid, man. Keep these rolling in throughout the day, my friends.
Yeah,
these are good.
For sure. We'll get back to these a little bit later. But Predators are kind of now on a break and have a few days off, which, look, going into the playoffs, I don't think that's a horrible thing. Now, I'm one of those I believe that confidence carries over and a little bit of momentum carries over game to game, and you ended the season with a loss, so that kind of lingers for a little bit. So I'd rather start playing sooner rather than later. My guess is, I think somewhere in the, maybe I've seen Tuesday, I've seen Monday, somewhere in that range, they would get things going. But that would be if it's Monday or Tuesday, that's a week off. Does that concern you at all?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's just you got time off. Here's the deal. Here's the other piece of advice. You control what you can control, right? They can't control the schedule. They can't control when they play again. You just kind of ride it out, and when you get the marching orders, go play. And, that's the thing is I go back to the Titans in 2008. They were 13-2, the last game of the year. They played the Colts. They had the division wrapped up, and, I remember nobody played in that game. I'll never forget people like, oh, God, they're going to have no momentum. They got a week off, then the Ravens are going to come here, or the Ravens have to play the Dolphins that weekend, and what's going to happen here? And then the Titans got beat. And the talk was like, well, they had time off, and they lost that momentum because they didn't play by that last game. Look, man, we can sit here and knock everything down about what happened and what's going on, but when you get your marching orders to go play, go play. And that's it. You can't control that you're off for another week or so or 8 days, how long it is. When you get the opportunity to go play in the playoffs, as they will next week, go play. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Wes in Clarksville says, Preds need to go see U2 now that there's a break.
No.
They're not seeing U2 until mid-June.
No, they don't. What's the thing with the pitcher throwing a no-hitter? You stay away from him.
Right.
You don't mention U2.
No. U2's going to play a concert on Broadway as part of a Stanley Cup parade.
Right. What's the you know more about this? What's a hockey superstition that's like baseball? It's stay away from the pitcher, don't talk to him. And what is it in hockey? I mean, is there one in hockey?
If a goalie, you don't say shutout if a goalie's got a shutout going. That's kind of the equivalent of a no-hitter.
Okay.
That you haven't let a goal in. I know a lot of guys. What's funny is, so we did we used to do a segment on the pregame show called Predators Profiles, and I actually did one on this where I went and talked to a bunch of the guys, and I said, what are your superstitions? And I learned in doing that they don't actually, a lot of them don't believe that they're superstitions. They just believe they're routine, which in fact they are superstition. But they kind of look at it as that way. But for several, it's they put the right sock on before the left sock, and they have their tape go a certain way. They with their tape on their stick, they have the certain pattern they do. They eat the same things on game day, so kind of stuff like that. So, I would say I kind of feel like hockey is more superstitious than baseball.
I do know you've heard this before. Like, I remember covering I was at a Vanderbilt baseball game one time, and the first 2 innings, I'm not kidding you, the first 2 innings went about 4 minutes. I mean, it was like 3 pitches out. I mean, it was, and I was like, I said, I'll never forget, I was like, God, we'll be out of here in an hour. And everybody in the press box looked at me and said, never say that again. And I was like, why? I mean, we're already in the 3rd inning. We're not even 10 minutes into the game. That game ended up going, I think, like 15 innings, we were there forever covering this baseball game. So I always laugh when I hear that, and I always like the other parts, like, if somebody's got a no-hitter and you tweet out, hey, check on the Braves, Chase McCabe's got a no-hitter, and then you give the no-hitter up, and invariably somebody replies back, it's like, way to go, Chase, way to go, you ruined it. Like, yeah, right. I gave up the hit.
Yeah, I had something to do with it. 1652 says, isn't there a superstition about the President's Trophy in the NHL, like not touching it or something? The only the superstition is the only trophy you touch is the Stanley Cup. There's a hilarious video that ESPN's put out with PK Subban and it's Mark Messier. So Mark Messier has won the Stanley Cup, so therefore he can touch it, and so he's holding the Stanley Cup, and they're like looking at it, and Messier's messing with PK, and he goes, "Your name's on here somewhere, right?" And PK's like, no. like trying to change the subject. And so Messier's like, here, touch it. Just touch it. And PK's like running through the studio, like, no, get that thing away from me. I can't touch it. Like, what if I become a strength and conditioning coach for, the Pittsburgh Penguins or something? That's when I touch it. And I'm sure it was a bit, but it was hilarious.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a big one. Like in when the Predators went to the Stanley Cup final, I think Roman didn't, or not Roman, Mike Fisher didn't touch the trophy. And then the next year when they won the President's Trophy, Roman did touch the President's Trophy.
Gosh.
And so there's just
was it a thing that you know more about hockey than I do, but that if you win the President's Trophy, nobody won the Stanley Cup, or very few?
It's there's a supposed curse to winning the President's Trophy. So the New York Rangers and Peter Laviolette, they I guess they're thinking about that, but you can't, like that when you win the President's Trophy, then you get knocked out in the first round. Like, weird stuff happens.
Okay. All right. I knew there was something weird about that. Speaking of weird, who's coming up next?
Hey, that's not good.
Oh,
he's
all
a nice fella. Max Hers is going to join us. He is not weird. He is a very good fella and going to be a part of Predators playoff coverage. Of course, he will join us next. Chasing Big Joe, presented by the Omni Nashville Hotel, where we will be tomorrow. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. A classic for sure. Chase and Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Here on this Wednesday, Predators with a little time off before the playoffs begin. And we say hello now to Max Hurst, who you have heard all year long on the pre and post game and the intermissions. He's done a fantastic job. I always enjoy in Jack Daniel's Barrel House when I can hear the words Preds win and the crowd goes wild. Max, good morning. How are you?
Hi, Chase. The thing I take the most pride in about hosting those games is all the people who get to hear me in the bathroom at the game. That's always hot.
Well, and they see my face and Joe's face, so there you go. But that's another story for another day. So the Predators are kind of in a wait and see now, and I know they're going to practice some, but how beneficial do you think it is to have what could potentially be a full week off between games and starting the playoffs?
Yeah, I feel like it's been almost exclusively advertised as a negative in terms of the way it's been talked about, but I think there are definitely positives to it. The practice that the team had last Thursday, I'm making sure I have my days of the week right, last Thursday, in between the game where they clinched the playoffs on Tuesday at home against the Jets, and then the weekend back-to-back that they swept that started in Chicago. It was the first time in what felt like forever that they had 2 off days in a row that didn't include a Sunday. So it was really kind of a deep breath time for the team on Wednesday. They had clinched the night before. And then Thursday, they got after it, and they did basically every drill that they have in their arsenal. They did every single aspect of their game. And based on what Barry Trotz said to Jared on our station last night in his interview, I think they're going to do that and even more today. And last week, a very fun part of the post-game shows on the road, and I hope the late-night people who at some of these games listen to this. When the team goes on the road, sometimes there are reporters who, they're just there to go into the visiting locker room and get a quote or two.
Yeah.
And some of them produce very funny answers because these people have no idea what does or doesn't make the opposing coach or players tick, and sometimes they just don't even know how to ask a question. But last week on Friday, after the Predators beat the Blackhawks in Chicago, Brunette was talking about having rested players. That was the game where Saros didn't travel, where McDonough and Nyquist didn't travel, and an out-of-town reporter followed up on that, we need a little bit of rest comment from Brunette just to make sure we're in the right place. And the reporter kind of goes, I think half is a joke, so no more battle drills in practice this week. And Bruno was, offended, as he should be. And he goes, no, that's part of our team identity. And I absolutely loved it. But that's the type of thing they'll be doing this week.
Talking to the great Max Hurst. Max, how was your return to Pittsburgh?
It was great. I had a great time. Got to see some of my friends, which was awesome. And it was my first time covering a game there. And I'm from there, as you said, but my attachment to hockey in Pittsburgh is much more to the Igloo, which was an iconic classic NHL venue, and not as much the new place. But of course, I still follow that team closely. It was great to be there, and it's great to be in the booth with Pete now, which is an opportunity.
Several guys, and besides the stars that we know of, the O'Reilly, Yossi, and Forsberg, who's one guy, Max, they picked up in the trade deadline who you think is going to be invaluable in the playoffs, a guy that just is going to bring so much, maybe take them to the next level? Is there one guy that sticks out with you that they picked up?
I think Zucker fits into that class of the O'Reilly, Shen, Nyquist offseason type acquisitions in terms of veteran guy who is an incredibly well-liked player around the league, fits in really well in the locker room, and also he's a sandpaper guy too, which O'Reilly has some of that, and of course that's Luke Shen's entire game, but to have a veteran who's who's a middle six guy and ends up in the net trying to come back in that game on Monday night and ends up with the 10-minute misconduct for abuse of officials out of it, which I I still don't even know what happened, but like it's stuff like that in a game where they've already clinched. Like this guy is a massive part of the group right now. And I don't think you can overlook Beauvillier either, especially if the Preds play the Canucks, who were his employer at the beginning of the season.
How quick do you think, Max, the hook will be on Saros if he doesn't have it? I mean, and, the playoffs, you're not guaranteed another day for the most part. How soon? Will there be a hook for him if he, 2 goals given up in the first 5 minutes of a game?
No, I don't think he would be pulled in a game unless it's a wash. And any time he were to be pulled, there would be no question that he would start the next game. As good as Kevin Lankinen is, there would be no situation where they'd go to him.
But do you buy, Max Hurst is with us, do you buy into, and I know I've asked Andrew Burnett this, that you do have to have both guys because it's a long, hard road to get to the Stanley Cup final and to win the Stanley Cup. We've seen it. I remember Pittsburgh a few years ago used both goalies, and you remember when Thomas Vokoun was with them. That he had some moments. So, how important is it to keep Lankinen fresh, just in case he's ready to go? Because you might have to go to both guys.
Yeah, it's an extreme luxury that they have a backup who is first of all a really good backup and arguably one of the best, certainly one of the 3 best backups in the NHL. Along with whichever of the Bruins goalies you want to call the backup, and Anthony Stolarz from Florida. I think Lankinen is probably second behind, I guess, Ullmark is the backup in Boston, which is insane because he won the Vezina here. But, I think Lankinen is number 2, and they made a decision at the trade deadline. There are teams that would have wanted him. He probably would have been the New Jersey Devils starter if they could have found a way to get him the rest of the season. And instead, they had to ride Jake Allen and Kaapo Kähkönen, which was an absolute disaster. And the Devils are cleaning out their lockers today. So they decided to keep Lankinen, which I think was a great move. He started 5 games since then. He went 3-2, and he won the team some really important games, including a road shutout win against the Florida Panthers, who are probably the favorite to win the Eastern Conference going into the playoffs. And it's sad to think about because Lankinen's been so great, but he is a free agent this offseason. I imagine there are teams that see him as at least a 1B and would want to give him a contract, hopefully for his sake, with multiple years of term, which he had 2 one-year deals with the Preds and decided to stay this year rather than test free agency last summer. So, that this is just me singing his praises, but to answer your question, yes, it is unbelievably valuable that they have him, and that's a big part of the reason why they decided to keep him, because they knew that they have a chance to go deep in the playoffs here.
Max,
sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, hey, Chase. Sorry, buddy. Hey, Max, how does this look? They're going to play Vancouver. How do the Preds match up with Vancouver?
We actually don't know, Joe, that they're going to play Vancouver.
Hypothetically, go ahead.
The Preds have not played the Canucks since before New Year's, which I think is fine because the Canucks have not seen the current Preds. But if I can go back again to what Barry Trotz said yesterday with Jared, pretty similar teams, which I think speaks well to the Preds because people have been praising the Canucks all season. But 2 teams with 2 head coaches in their first full seasons. Rick Tocchet became the Canucks coach late in last season. Both teams are fast. Both teams are pretty deep. Both teams are physical. And now that Thatcher Demko is back for the Canucks, both teams have their goalies going too. So I think the the area where the Preds have the potential advantage is experience. A lot of that experience is not with the Preds for a lot of the Preds players in the playoffs, but that doesn't make a difference once you get there. So that's a big part of the reason why I thought this was the most favorable matchup for the Preds going back over a month. We are a Stars win over the Blues tonight, or even a Stars overtime loss to the Blues tonight, away from being able to lock that in, Preds Canucks first round. So, no, I think it would be a lot of fun, and I think the Canucks will end up winning the awards that the Preds have people who most deserve, and we won't know the winners of the awards until after the playoffs. But Rick Tocchet is the heavy winner for Coach of the Year, and Quinn Hughes is the heavy favorite for the Norris. I think if it were to be just based on the second half, and maybe the entire season too for Andrew Brunette. I think he's the coach of the year in the NHL. And if you're to just look at the second half, I think Roman Josi has been the best defenseman by far. So that adds a little bit of head-to-head flavor, which is fun. But no, I think it would be a lot of fun. Obviously, they have one previous playoff meeting, so that's some fun history that will come back up here in the 25th anniversary season for our fans. Vancouver's a great city. Obviously, it's far away, which stinks, which makes it hard for our fans to get there. But no, I think it would be a really fun matchup. I think it would be more fun in every way than Dallas, to be honest with you. So let's hope the Stars don't get punked by the Blues tonight.
Well, Max, appreciate it as always. It's going to be a fun ride, and we will be catching up with you usually on Mondays, talking through all of it. So appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys, and thank you, Joe, for my weird intro. I'm not offended by it.
Okay. I don't know what he's talking about. But
you called him weird. That's what he's talking about.
We're all weird, man.
I know.
We're all weird. Love you, Max, more than you'll ever know.
I said I'm not offended. I love you, too.
More than you'll ever know.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Dad. I mean, Joe.
Max Hers joining us here on the program. All right, Joseph has a rant when we come back. I have no idea what this rant is about.
Well, it's about travel. And just let me tell you, I'm sick and tired of this. And I'll tell you what it is when we come back.
Yeah, I just did it on Monday. So I look forward to this. Chase and Big Joe here on this Wednesday. Let me tell you about Nashville Super Speedway in the city of Lebanon. Join them on Saturday. Speedway on the Square this Saturday, April 20th from 1 to 6. Big Joe will be there from 1 to 3 in downtown Lebanon. Stop and bring the family for a day filled with inflatables, face painting, balloon art, live music, and a ticket giveaway to the Ally 400 NASCAR Cup Series race at 3:30. Check that out on Saturday, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
You couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat. Where's your killer instinct, son? You gotta get angry. You gotta get mean. That's the only way you can play.
Well, then a little Razor Ramon bringing us back here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, Chasing Big Joe on this Wednesday. We'll get back to our question of the day in the 10 o'clock hour. What's the best advice that you've ever gotten? One sentence. We'll get to a bunch of those in the 10 o'clock hour. But right now, Joe has a rant.
Yeah, by the way, the responses for the best advice, one sentence only coming through, are just fantastic. You guys are great. Keep them coming, 615-737-1025. All right, I hate this. It happens every year, the whole travel thing, okay? Somebody's like, well, they got to travel to Vancouver. And let me tell you what. Do you know what a charter plane is?
Exactly.
So the Preds aren't going to the airport, parking in short-term parking, hopping on a shuttle, standing in line at TSA for 2 hours, half of them getting pulled to the side and get them searched, and then getting to their gate for 2 hours and waiting on a cramped Southwest flight. They are flying a charter jet first class to Vancouver, which means you show up about 20 minutes before the plane leaves. You go through security, put your bags on. You get a big seat. You get fed. You get everything you need. Next thing you know, you're landing in Vancouver. Stop with the travel nonsense. They are not flying. They're not getting their C boarding pass. Roman Josi, 24 hours before a flight, is not on his phone to try to get an A boarding pass.
That's actually not true. Yeah, it's a new rule. They have to check in. No, just kidding.
So you've been on those. I did that with the Titans for a long time. It's heaven.
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just now kind of getting over it because I've just accepted it. But flying with them, when I did it with a couple of playoffs, kind of ruined travel for me for a while.
It does. Yes. You talk to a lot of ex-athletes, especially NFL guys that I've talked to. They said one of the biggest downfalls of leaving and getting out of the league is the travel.
Yeah.
Because you show up 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes for a flight, and you got the whole row. And no, I've been on those flights where guys show up with 10 minutes to go. There's dozens of them that show up, and you're like, are they going to miss the flight? Are they going to miss the flight? And some do miss the flight because they're idiots. But stop with the travel talk. Right, well, that's a lot. They're going to travel 12,000 miles if they play 7 games in Vancouver. First class. Hell, yeah. Fergie sings about it, right? First class?
Yeah.
Does she not? So let's just stop with all this. They'll be fine.
What was funny is, so I went, I think it was, the first time I went, they were playing in Colorado, playing in Denver. And, they told me, hey, be there like 30 minutes before and get settled and all that stuff. So, I'm just kind of hanging out on the plane, and all the broadcasters were together. So talking to Pete and Willie and, Darren and Chris and Hal and everybody. And they said, you'll know when we're about to leave. And I'm like, okay. And so it kind of took me 2 flights to pick up on it, but they were ready to go when Pekka got on. Pekka was the last guy on the plane. And when Pekka Rinne got on, everybody knew, and he was one of those that he would be there like a few minutes before we left. But when Pekka got on, it's like, all right, let's go.
Love that.
Tables up, time to go.
That's a boss move right there.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
But it's like it's Pekka, so of course you're going to wait for Pekka.
Oh yeah, of course you are. What is the old rule that we were told? There are rules and there are exceptions.
Yes.
And
yes.
Pekka is an exception, and rightfully so.
Yes, he is. We'll get to your answers of our question of the day coming up next, 615-737-1025. Plus, Big Joe brought something up on our show yesterday, and I noticed this topic kind of kept creeping up throughout the day, including some experts from ESPN and Tim Hasselbeck and Trevor Maddich on what if a certain quarterback's sitting there at 7. We'll discuss that next. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All right, guys, Big Joe here. Listen, I'm here to talk to you about medical house calls because it's fantastic. It is Middle Tennessee's best health care in the comfort of your own home, office, or wherever you may be. That's right, where the nearest clinic is your home, again, office, or wherever. The website, medicalhousecalls.com. No more heading to an urgent care. No more getting up, driving across town in this insane Nashville traffic and sitting in a waiting room. Board-certified nurse practitioners and physician's assistants come to you. And look, just don't take my word for it. Read the numerous fantastic reviews that Medical House Calls has gotten. It truly is a game changer. And our dear friend, in fact, Chuck McDowell, was a client, loved the service so much, he bought the company. For years, like many of you guys have to leave work to check on a loved one. My mom was getting sick. I'd leave work early to check on her. Now you can have Medical House Calls check on your loved ones to make sure everyone and everything is okay. It's simple. Visit the website today, medicalhousecalls.com. That's medicalhousecalls.com.
Chase and Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game here on this Wednesday. Hope you're having a great start to your day. He's Big Joe. I'm Chase McCabe. Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier on the ones and twos. Our question of the day. Joe, reset it for us.
Our question of the day is, the draft's coming up next Thursday, and all these guys talk about, hey, I talked to my dad, my mom said do this and do that, kind of advice in the world. So today we're taking a step further. What's the best advice you've ever gotten in one sentence? The best advice you've ever gotten in one sentence. 615-737-1025. Chaser will read those off a little bit. And some of these are the simple ones are great, and some of these are just really fantastic that you guys have sent in. So please keep doing that.
Lisa and Dixon said, when I had my first serious broken heart, my mom told me that everything is a learning experience, and she was right. Simple, a very good one. Gary says, don't compare yourself to others.
Oh my gosh. Yes, indeed. Do not do that. Your journey is your journey.
I like this one. Lenny says, if you don't lie, you don't have to remember what you said.
Beautiful. And I've told my son this, that a college football coach told me one time, and other coaches share this as well. And Dr. Crane, you'll know this, and Chase, you'll know this as well. To the guys out there, whatever you do in life, don't embarrass your mother.
Oh, that's a good one.
And when my football coach told me that, it was before Mother's Day. We're all going home. He's like, hey, whatever you do when you go out, don't embarrass your mom. And I was like, man, so I've always told my son this. I was like, whatever you do, don't embarrass your mom. I can't. You and I will deal with it on the side. He's a good boy, but I'm saying, just don't embarrass your mom, and you'll be good.
Yeah, no, that's very, very good advice. Always take care of mom. Rob says, and this is Michael Scott. Actually, it's probably somebody else, but kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Michael Scott's got some great advice.
Self-discipline comes from within, not from Chris. Yeah, so keep those coming. 615-737-1025. So, a lot of good things, a lot of good ideas come from this show. And yesterday, I don't even remember how we were just talking about what to do at 7 and all that stuff. And you said, what if Drake May is sitting there at 7? I said, trade back. That's what I would do. I would trade back. I would get draft capital from that spot. But I noticed listening throughout the day of what others would do. And, our favorite former quarterback, Tim Hasselbeck, joined the midday show as he always does. And he was asked, what would you do if Drake May was sitting there at 7?
If Drake May's stock does slip and he falls to 7 to the Tennessee Titans, should the Titans take him?
100%. 100%. I'm telling you what, if his stock is slipping at the combine, I'd like to know what for. Size, athleticism, arm strength, and then the interview process. You got to think, I've had, I called his first start, and I've called his, I guess it would have been his last game against NC State this past season because he didn't play in the bowl game. I had him a number of times, had him in production meetings a number of times. He's going to be super impressive in the interview process. So to me, when I hear hey, his stock is dropping, that feels like it has to be smoke screen to me. It has to be, because I've sat there and I've experienced what the interview process would seem like with him. And I don't think that there are going to be teams that walk away from interacting with him and think that guy can't be a franchise quarterback. I don't think that. That would be the most unlikely scenario that I could imagine.
All right, so that was Tim Hasselbeck. Ugh. What do you think?
I love Tim Hasselbeck. I think he's one of the best. I'm going to 100% disagree with him on that. Look, there's a reason Drake May is falling. I saw a quote yesterday that some coach or some, air quote coach put out there, executive or somewhere in the National Football League, and says, look, I like Drake May, but by the time we get him trained and ready to go, we'll be long out of a job. And I was like, ouch. No, you don't need. And then what do you got now? Then you still don't have a left tackle. You don't have a receiver. You don't have an edge rusher. You got another quarter. Now you got 4 quarterbacks, and what's going on there? I love you, Tim, and I think you're fantastic, but absolutely, there's a reason. There's a reason that Drake May is dropping, and you don't want any part of that. And look, it's starting to happen because you've seen this now. They're starting to pick everybody apart, and they're picking Drake May apart left and right. I think he's going to fall like Aaron Rodgers or Will Levis does, man. I'd be shocked now if he goes in the top 10. Titans, stay away from him.
Yeah, look, I'm not as concerned about the dropping part. I still think Drake May is a very good quarterback. You don't need a quarterback. You have decided that Will Levis is your guy, at least for the foreseeable future. You are building around Will Levis. I agree. You need a left tackle. You need some other things as well, but especially you really need a right tackle. You need both tackles. So you got to start addressing that. And even though, like, if you could get away with it and you take a quarterback every year, great. But if you're taking one in the first round at pick number 7, you are basically saying, hey, we're going to hit reset again. And then you're going to start the process all over again. Go with Will Levis right now. If he's still there, then you know there's going to be a team behind you, Minnesota or Denver, that is going to be calling and chomping at the bit to move into that spot.
Oh yeah, listen, have I not seen enough from Will? Did Will Levis do something so bad that now we don't like him? I mean, am I missing the point here? I mean, Tom Brady thinks he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, the other guys, they thought he was great last year. I just don't – why you get bogged down? If he's the guy, ride with him. Just go with it. I think Callahan has seen him and liked him and see what's going on, that they're not going to take Drake May. Again, I go back, Chase, and this is a thing where sometimes you have to do backyard basketball stuff. You just play the game – and let your instincts take over, if that makes sense or not. You go through these games. We saw with our own eyes Will Levis in Miami when their backs against the wall, and Vrabel kind of let Will Levis go. And I know DeAndre Hopkins was fantastic, but rallying that team in the fourth quarter down the way they were, and that's one of the best comebacks ever with so little time on the clock. Watching Will Levis just play football down in Miami was fantastic. I saw everything I needed to see from Will Levis in that fourth quarter. And yeah, now, did he make some bonehead plays? They all do. Joe Montana made bonehead plays. So did Marino. But They also made great plays. And we saw Will Levis in that fourth quarter in Miami just carve up and just play football, let the instincts take over. I just don't know all this talk. Like, if he's there, take Drake May at 7. No,
and I agree that I think a lot of this, what Tim said, a lot of it's smokescreen that other teams are putting out there. Like, if you really, really want a guy, you want to make teams think that you don't want him, and then all that stuff. Oh, there's something wrong with him, things like that. But I'm with you. I'm not doing it. I'm trading back. If your guy is not there at 7, or you're getting just blown up with phone calls and offers you can't refuse because May's sitting there, then I'm moving back. Trevor Maddich also weighed in with Stillman and Company. Here was his thoughts.
I would not take him. I would still take Joe Alt if it's between those two. Now, I have tremendous respect for Tim Hasselbeck. I mean, he played the position in college and in the NFL. He's one of the best analysts out there for college and NFL football. I've got great respect for him. And I've got to say that I just see this differently. And the reason I see it differently is twofold. One is that I don't see Drake May as a lock to make it. I think he's got great upside, but when you look at quarterbacks in the draft, you are about a 50-50 crapshoot, essentially, for whether or not they're going to be great, even when they're taken high in the first round. Now, once again, Tim Hasselbeck and others that I have heard put Drake May in the top tier. Great. I totally agree. But there's a couple things that give me pause as to whether or not he's got a better chance than average of being in that 50% that is your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. When you looked at him this last year, and really the year before too, but especially in 2023 at North Carolina, he made some amazing throws. But he also made a lot of head scratchers. I mean, on crossing routes, he would slow down receivers that were running wide open across the field. They had to slow down or even stop to catch the ball. And instead of getting lots of yards after the catch, that allowed defenders to catch up to him and take him down right there. You know, he had issues with accuracy relative to that, and that's kind of a head scratcher because it led to a lot of interceptions. Not where he was trying to make something happen because his receivers weren't as good this last year as they were the year before, but it's just like, okay, that was pretty much a lousy throw against pressure. He seemed to be degraded, at least as I watched him, more than I thought he should have been, given his natural talent.
Given his thoughts on this as well. And look, it's Trevor agrees with us.
The whole time I'm thinking fight between him and Hasselbeck.
Yeah, well, I don't think it gets to that. Fight. Hey, disagreements are a good thing. It creates a good conversation. But we're in the agreement of, and again, I respect him too, but we're in the agreement of I'm not. You got Will Levis. Yeah. Ride with Will Levis.
Can you imagine if they did draft Drake May?
Oh.
And now, good luck dropping back to your 5, well, even a 3-step. You're still going to get crushed off the edge. That would set the franchise back another – if they draft Drake May, that sets the franchise back another 5 years.
I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but I think it does set them back.
How dare you?
For sure. Well, I do what I want. Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Coming up next, could Super Leagues be on the horizon? No. We will discuss that next here on Chasing Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. 1025 1063 The Game. We're broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Here on this Wednesday, you can weigh on anything that we're talking about. 615-737-1025. Our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. All right, Joe, you just sent this to us, and we've talked about this, but I mean, with the way college football is going, I mean, we're going to see Super League divisions at some point, and there's going to be what, 2 conferences?
Well, I who knows? But there's a proposed Super League division that's happening. I thought it was a joke at first, but it's picking up steam. And basically, all the conferences will be dissolved, and you'll have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You'll have 8 different leagues. And then there's some group of 5 teams, including basically the South would be, you'd have your Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, kind of the old SEC way.
Yeah.
South Carolina be gone. Missouri's out of there. Florida actually moves to another division, and you would place Florida with Georgia Tech. So you'd have Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. In the Southeast, next to it, you have Clemson, Duke, Florida, Florida State, Miami, NC State. You would add South Carolina. You'd add UCF to that mix because TV-wise, you want that Orlando market. So basically, the Southeast is taking over the state of Florida. You got Miami, you got Orlando, you got Tampa. Everything goes in between there, and Jacksonville's pretty close to Gainesville.
These are kind of the old conferences, if you really think about it.
Only thing that's missing is Sewanee. Now, they have a thing called the Underleague Division, and it's like Boise State, James Madison. Now, the player in all this, Chaser, I've told you about this, is Liberty. The Liberty facilities, when we went up there and MTSU played Liberty last October, their facilities are as good as any college in the country. I'm not kidding you. Liberty's going to be a massive player in this game. I'd be like, well, the TV market up in Virginia, blah, blah, blah. Look, they got money, and they know how to spend money. Also in that league, New Mexico State, Toledo, Troy, Tulane, UNLV, and University of Texas, San Antonio. Also, I think Tulane, because you're going to grab that New Orleans market. I know LSU's down there as well, but still, these are these proposed conference games. And the more I look at it, the more it's like, all right, yeah, because you were right about this is kind of the way it used to be in the old days. Like the Southwest, Arkansas will move over, and they'll play Baylor and Houston, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and on in Texas and A&M. So I don't mind that because it harkens back to the way it kind of used to be.
Yeah.
Now you've had some more teams in there, and now you know what's going forward with the money and everything. I kind of don't mind it because it's kind of like a solid foundation going forward.
Yeah, I don't mind it either. And I'll say this too. I my soul feels good to talk a little college football. So it definitely feels good. But I mean, this is in some way this is where it's going. Like there's going to be, I would say in 10 years, college football as we know it is going to look different. Like when it comes to a division standpoint. Here's where I don't think it's going to get to these divisions necessarily. Because the SEC especially, they're not going to give that power up. Unless Greg Sankey's being named the college football commissioner, I don't see the SEC trying to give up their power. I don't see the Big Ten trying to give up their power. The others probably don't have a choice because they're going to get swallowed. Like that's just what's going to happen. But the SEC and the Big Ten, they run the show, and they know they run the show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sure. And it's – it's incorporating more schools now that go in there. Like the Midwest, Cincinnati would not, become of a Midwest conference with Illinois, Indiana. Louisville is added to that part as well. They'll be playing with Michigan and Michigan State and Ohio State.
But what I'm saying, and look, that's fine. What I'm saying, those divisions could be there, but I think half will be the SEC and half will be the Big Ten, and then you have a playoff.
Yeah, but do you take these 8 divisions and you make the top 2? Get a 16-team playoff? I mean, is it fair that, I don't know, UNLV wins this other division and they're competing, over LSU who went 10-2 but happened to lose to Georgia and Tennessee? I mean, there's still a long way to go, and that's the thing about this. They're still going to debate who goes where and what goes where and how they divvy it up. But, and that's the thing. I like talking. We're not talking portal. We're not talking NIL money. Just football. Just the X's and O's, what goes on in the field, and it's so refreshing to talk about. That's out of control, and there's nobody engineering this thing.
Well, it's going to be the college professional football league. I mean, that's what it is. It's it and the SEC and the Big Ten are driving those trains. There's probably two trains right now, and the Big Ten is driving one, and the SEC is driving the other. Eventually, I know like the Pac-12's gone. We have actually witnessed a conference just disappear. I guess they have two teams technically, but like they're gone. And then, the Big 12 is still alive, but not what they once were. They're losing, Texas and Oklahoma. And then you got the ACC that's hanging on by a thread, but I don't think they're going to, at least in how they currently look, they're not going to make it because you got teams that are looking at what the SEC and the Big Ten are doing and going, well, okay, I want a piece of that pie.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got a 12, you had a 14 playoff, and now it's a 12-team playoff. It's going to do that for like 2 years, and then it'll be 14. Before you know it, it'll be 16. Then it'll be 18. Then it'll be 20. It'll keep growing.
What I like about this though, Chaser, is the fact that it keeps heated rivalries together instead of, some I've seen where Auburn and Georgia are split up and they're different conferences. They don't play. No, they should play. Alabama hates Auburn. Auburn hates Alabama. They both hate Georgia. Georgia hates both of them. Tennessee, hates Alabama. Alabama hates Auburn. I mean, it's the whole thing that goes on and on and on, this big cycle, but they're all still together. And I think that's fantastic. You move Missouri away from LSU, nobody cares. LSU doesn't care about Missouri. LSU doesn't care about Arkansas. LSU cares about Alabama. LSU cares about Ole Miss. So these schools are still playing each other, and the rivalries are still intact, and you go on and on. Like, you move South Carolina out of where they are now. Now they're in a division where they play Clemson. I know they play Clemson every year, but now you're playing Clemson, and it means something. And I always thought South Carolina and North Carolina is a great rivalry, and now you're together and doing that. So I don't mind this. There's going to be a lot of debate going forward about what happens, but they're going to do it eventually. But let's keep all the rivalries together as best as they can.
So if I told you that I jumped in the DeLorean and I went 10 years into the future and got a look at what college football was, and I came back and I said, here's the deal, the season is basically going to be as long as the NFL's now. That includes playoffs. You'll still play your 12 regular season games or whatever it is, but the bowls are going away as we know them. Bowls are basically disappearing, and there are 32 teams in the playoff, and that basically takes up all of December and parts of January, and that's how you crown a champion.
I would tell you when I got into DeLorean, I said, hey, man, put your seatbelt on, and you'd say.
Yes, Joe.
No, you would say.
I don't remember. I don't do lines. Don't do lines from movies. I don't remember
You'd
them.
say, where we're going, you don't need seatbelts.
That's right.
No, I think it's exactly what's going to happen, but I think it's sooner than that, Chase. I think it's 5 years.
Probably, because they see dollar signs.
Yep. Yeah.
It's all about money.
It is.
The quality of the game, that's why Nick Saban got out. He's tired of dealing with the BS, and he sees the BS is growing. Now he can sit at college game day and eat his little Debbies and argue with Herb Street and be great and still be a part of it. But a lot of these coaches, you're going to see them slowly but surely get out because they don't want to deal with it anymore, and the game is completely changed and it's not going back.
Well, I
You'll
think
still watch.
I think within 24 months there will be guidelines and rules on NIL. There has to be. They have to do this. And part of these new super conferences, I think they'll have to put a rule in where everybody's on the same playing field. And look, we know, when Saban goes to Congress and bitches about this and that, to me it falls on deaf ears because this is a guy that was pushing the envelope pun intended, for many years, right? I mean, come on. And now, it's not fair and everybody's gaining on him and all that, whatever. Just, you don't do it, get out, that's fine. See ya. You did great. But at the same time, I think, when these super conferences go forward, there's got to be rules that come into hand. And plus, when they do this with the 12-game schedule, we talked about this, there's a lot of, Middle Tennessee needs to play the Alabamas and the Tennessees of the world to get the revenue, and they just have to. So these other schools still getting a piece of the pie, and that's great. But I think when you do the super conferences, I think the group of 5 guys, I think there should still be allowed a team to get in, because you never know what that team could do. I mean, like Liberty. I'm telling you right now, Liberty's going to be a massive player in whatever happens in the next 3 to 5 years. Tulane, the same way. You get these schools get in there, and if they can upset the apple cart, I'm all for it. If Liberty can get in and knock off a Michigan or Ohio State, and I know Oregon.
Yeah, but what are the odds of that actually happening?
But let's try it and see. Why not?
Sure.
I know Oregon beat the what out of Liberty in the Fiesta Bowl, and I get that. But I think one of those group of 5 schools still deserve to get in just to see what happens, and who knows if they will or not.
And look, I agree with you, and I was all about. UCF should have been, and they beat Auburn in their bowl game, and they went undefeated, and they claim a national championship and all that stuff. Cincinnati got boat raced by Alabama when they made the playoff, and so I just think you're going to see hesitancy of letting a group, quote unquote, group of 5 in, but the game's going to change with NIL and with the transfer portal. And to your point, yes, there should be some regulations. But the NCAA sat on their ass for so long and done nothing that the cart's kind of out of the barn on that.
Yeah.
So good luck getting it back in. And that's why a lot of these coaches, a la Nick Saban, are kind of like, you know what? Good luck. And you're right. There were things going on for years that coaches and programs would do, but in some ways, like at least they kind of knew the system.
Oh, they did. Look, when the head coach at Boston College leaves, what did he leave in late January or February, whenever it is, a lot coming, like with the underlying thing there was like, this is out of hand, and goes to the professional game. That's why people are like, well, Vrabel at Ohio State. Mike Vrabel.
He's not going to mess with it.
He ain't going to deal with this stuff. Nobody wants to deal with this stuff. You look what Deion's doing at Colorado. I mean, they're guys that Boulder, Colorado right now is busier than O'Hare Airport. They got guys coming and going left and right all the time there. It's out of hand. So why do you want to deal with this stuff? I wouldn't. I don't care how much money you're paying me. I told you, when the coaching convention was in town, I was with about 40 coaches at dinner. They couldn't get off their phone. I'm like, what's going on? Like, hey, this one guy's leaning this way. I got to talk to this guy. I mean, it was non-stop. And coaches are going to keep to say, I'm done with this. I'm getting out. Unless they do something to stop what's going on with the portal NIL, I don't use the word, it's killing these coaches, but it's kind of destroying the game, and they've got to rein all this stuff in or else.
Yep, and I don't know if they can. That's the problem, because they've let it get to this point. 615-737-1025. That's our phone and text line. You can weigh in. It's the Chase and Big Joe Show, presented by the Omni Nashville Hotel here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
somebody help, not just anybody help. You know I need someone.
I need someone to find the real Beatles version of this song. This week's Nashville's best. What is this?
Is this you and Phil Grand karaoke at Brewhouse?
Might be.
Oh, man.
This week's Nashville's best deal is Prince's Hot Chicken. The original and iconic hot chicken joint. Get half off a $25 gift card now while supplies last at thegamenashville.com/deals. Gift card is only good for the Tanger outlets in Antioch and inside Assembly Food Hall in downtown Nashville. Yeah, sorry, Dr. Crane. I heard that. I'm like, that's not the Beatles.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It's okay, buddy.
I even recognize myself. I was like, this is not the Beatles.
Oh,
that's why we preview stuff, but that's okay.
Oh, don't worry.
Fun content.
I did preview it, and I don't know why I still chose the option to play it. That's
okay.
That's on me.
It's okay. Look, Joe probably remembers this. When I was producing the morning show, he's like, play some Garth Brooks, and I played Friends in Low Places, and it was certainly not Garth Brooks.
Well, at least I used to work with a producer who never previewed anything. So on YouTube, you would hear 15-second commercials, and I'd be like, what are you doing? He's like, it's just a commercial. Listen to it. I was like, okay. So it was one of those
It's a crazy way of thinking.
But I'll tell you this, though. I talked to our buddy Jim White yesterday, and he's doing his annual draft. He goes and talks to everybody, and he's graciously going to include our own Dr. Crane in the draft talk, in the draft thing next week.
He is. I know he's talked to a Broadway legend. I gave my pick. So always fun when Jim does that. And he's done that going back to the Tennessean.
He has.
It's like, when he was the beat writer and the best beat writer that has ever walked these
by
this
far.
town.
Did you? Let me ask you this. It's going to come out. Just tell. Did you go with the solid pick about who the Titans are going to draft, or did you be all cute and say, "Well, they're going to trade to 11, then trade to 23, then"?
No, I went Joe. I went the University of Tennessee quarterback Joe Milton.
I
went Joe Alt.
When we talk about this, I want them to draft Milton in the 7th round. I do. I really do. Because I want to see him at practice field just launch ones into the pond at Metro Center. I would love to see that.
I haven't even looked where he's graded to go or to, what round. I mean, that's the thing. We know the power he has. It's the accuracy. Like, how many times did we make the joke Jover throw? Because, he'd launch at 80 yards into the first row.
Right.
But look, he got better. And he's a great story that he transferred from Michigan. He was a starter. He lost his job to Hendon Hooker. He stuck with it. He could have very easily transferred again, and he didn't. So, I hope he gets drafted. I really do. I hope he gets a shot in the league.
And
I would love to. I'd love to see him, fighting as, either the backup or the third or whatever with this team.
Who would you rather have, Joe Milton or Malik Willis?
Joe Milton.
100%. And look, Malik, nice guy. I don't know him, but you know what? Little pat on the tush. Take care, pal. And then Joe Milton come in here and just, again, let him play the preseason game, see what he could do, and have some fun with it.
You've heard me say this, and I say
get out of my office.
Yes, but I say this in a way that, like, I mean it more of I want it to help Malik Willis. Malik Willis should not be at the Titans offseason program right now. Malik Willis should be playing in the UFL. And I don't mean that as a shot. I mean that as he'd be getting experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he needs. And that's why I think the NFL's got to partner up with them and, like, allow certain guys to go play and what have you. Because, I am sure that GMs around the league right now are putting most of their focus into the draft, as they should. They're paying attention to the UFL. We saw it last year. We've seen guys out of the XFL and the USFL before they merge at least make it to camps. And, so, and look, now you got the Arena League, like with the Cats, and there's going to be players there. And I get it. It's a shorter field, but there's going to be players that probably get looks.
Go to Canada for 2 years. Look, you had Warren Moon, you had Doug Flutie, you had Jeff Garcia. I mean, there are quarterbacks that have come out of the Canadian Football League, and they'll all tell you.
Kurt Warner was in the the Arena League.
Yeah, but I'd rather go Canadian football. It's just because you got a more open offense and everything. But that being said, And they all talked about it. I remember, Jeff Garcia talked about, look, I was able to play every day in the offense and be out there and getting better and get better. Just go do that. But I'm with you, man. I mean, you're going through the motions. You're not going to see the field probably, and we've seen what you can do and what you can't do. And no offense, just hey, take care, pal.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, now I'm going down this rabbit hole with Joe Milton, where he's Sports Illustrated has him as a sleeper prospect. Interesting. I mean, where would you take him? 6th round?
No, 7th round. Give me 7th round. I'll take him. Other than that, no, I'm good.
Here's this is Pro Football Focus. Milton is physically gifted as they come at 6'5" and 235 pounds, with good mobility and a cannon of an arm. He operates almost exclusively from the shotgun, involves wide formation vertical offense. His trump card is his arm talent. He is also useful in the power RPO run game. However, he still has ways to go as a passer before becoming a potential NFL starter. His feet are heavy, and he can stop moving when he's scanning the field. He also tends to get tunnel vision on primary reads and fails to move on his progressions. His accuracy when throwing the fastball can be good, but his overall ball placement with touch is far too inconsistent. Okay. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, that's why I take him in the 7th round. I'd do it just for the giggles, just to have him come in and just launch bombs in practice and all that. A 7th rounder, at least you get some value out of that.
I think he might go before that. I think there's going to be a team that takes a chance, like fifth or 6th.
Maybe. I hope. Good for him.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if it's Detroit and then he's back with Hendon Hooker?
Oh, yeah, right. I don't think they'll do that, but you never know. I mean, he's a Michigan guy.
Yeah. This is Chip from Mount Juliet. It says Milton was a liability in Vols offense. He can't read a defense.
Well, maybe Chip was a liability in that offense too.
Maybe. I don't know. Real quick, a couple of more pieces of advice or question of the day. 9926. This is always solid. Don't eat the yellow snow.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice right there.
9912 says, or Roger says, my father said that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you need to listen twice as much as you talk.
That's good advice from your dad. 4650, best advice we got from my pop was get up and make a difference from Patrick. Absolutely. Get up and make a difference every single day.
Alex, be interested rather than interesting.
Oh, that's a good one.
I like that.
That's a really good one.
Jesse Ventura, this is Hair Metal Henry. Jesse Ventura once said, win if you can, lose if you must, but I always cheat. If you're not, you're only cheating yourself. I remember that. It's a good one.
What you never gave us your advice. What's your best advice?
Be your biggest fan.
Ah, okay. All right.
That's what I always got, or one I got, and I liked it. And I have stuck by that. All right, let's give something away. Want to do that, JoJo?
Sure.
615-737-1025. Caller number 3 will win a pair of tickets to see Stained and Seether at First Bank Amphitheater on Tuesday, April 23rd. Caller number 3, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll tell you what day it is and also celebrity birthdays. 1025, 1063, the game. All right, a lot of stuff to bet on these days, but ESPN Bet, that's the place to go. And they're ready to take you through all the huge sports moments this spring. The exclusive sports book of ESPN has it all, including offers and promotions from Scott Van Pelt and Stephen A. Smith. From the playoff intensity to getting on the links and out to the ballpark, there's no better time to be a sports fan. New users get $100 in bonus bets for making any sportsbook bet. Download ESPN Bet today. What a play. You must be 21 years or older and in Tennessee. For problem gambling support, call or text the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. See the app for details.
reaching out, touching me, touching you.
Big Joe, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. You know, I saw Neil Diamond in concert one time, and it's still one of my favorites.
Did you go with Hope Hines?
No, I went with my dad and my grandmother.
Oh, nice.
And my aunt. Because actually, a lot of us went. But it was a good time. It was a good time for sure. All right, with that, let's get to what day is it and our favorite celebrity birthdays.
All right, gentlemen, today we have Bat Appreciation Day. That is the animal, not the baseball bat.
I was about to say.
Bat? Okay. All right.
We also have Blah, Blah, Blah Day. I guess that's...
That's every day.
You get that from 2 to 6?
Oh, we also have Ellis Island Family History Day. I believe my grandmother actually signed that book when she came from Italy.
That's awesome.
Pretty neat.
That's something New York, so you get that 11 to 2.
Yep. We also have International Ford Mustang Day.
Ooh.
That's
the
pretty
Mustang.
Cool. International Poetry Day. That's another one.
Nice. Joe's a poet.
Are you, Joe?
I am.
Didn't even know it, did you?
I do. I read poetry at the Brentwood Library from 2 to 3 every Thursday, the 5th Thursday of every month.
Oh. Okay. We also have National Banana Day. Get that potassium. National Book Mobile Day. What? I don't know what that could
I don't.
Maybe it's some
like a bookmobile.
Bookmobile.
Oh, my bad. I just read
Oh, book mobile. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
Okay. Good job, Dr. Crave. That's what we're here. Hey, we're here to pick you up.
I need more coffee. Oh, boy. National Cheese Ball Day. We also have that. National Crawfish
you
Day.
You hear that from 9 to 11.
That's right.
And then National Kickball Day. What else we got here? Oh, my
Kickball's
goodness.
the best.
And then School Librarians Day. That's the last
Shout
one.
out to the librarians.
It's librarian. That's how you get your graduate degree.
Wait, what was yesterday with the librarians?
It was almost the same thing, I believe. It was like National Appreciation for Librarians Day.
Yeah.
This is School Librarians Day, so different, I guess. School and then the regular public library.
All right.
I don't make the days, I just read them.
Attaboy. All right, time for celebrity birthdays. Got to get them within 2 years. First birthday today, the great actor Sean Bean. He was great in Martian. He was also in one of those movies where he chased Jack Ryan around. Sean Bean. Oh, he was in National Treasure. He was the bad guy.
Oh, okay. 61.
75.
65. Singer Liz Phair.
I don't know who that is.
She's a singer.
I'm sure she's fair. 71.
44.
57. The great actress Jennifer Garner.
I know who she is. 48.
This is the Capital One, right?
Yep.
Oh, boy. 52.
52 exactly.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Dr. Crane knows what's in his wallet.
I do. Lint and a few receipts and 2 quarters.
Model and singer Victoria Beckham.
Man. 50?
43.
50 exactly. Chasers tied it at 2.
No, my Spice Girls.
Well done. Actress Rooney Mara. I think your grandpa owned the New York Giants. Is she the one that was in House of Cards? Maybe?
I don't know.
Rooney Mara.
44.
49.
39. The great musician who does the theme for Miami Vice, Jan Hammer. How old is Jan Hammer today? Or as my friends call him, Jan Hammer.
78.
84.
76. Chaser knows his Crockett and Tubbs. Well
Been around
done.
you enough.
His cousin's Tom Cruise, but actor William Mapother. He was in Lost. He's been in a bunch of Tom Cruise movies. He looks just like Tom Cruise.
So I'm going to say 58.
62.
59. Chaser 4-2. Killing it so far today.
I had to rebound from yesterday.
Actor D.D. Davis from the Bernie Mac Show.
62.
68.
28. And then finally one more to end it out here. Let's go with Oh man, today would have been Roddy Piper's birthday.
You remember when he came in studio?
It was great.
It was awesome.
And I said, "You sure are short," and he smacked me. All right, last one. Rapper actor Redman. How old is actor Redman?
58.
50. No, I'm going to go a little higher. 64.
54. Should have gone the other way. Well done. Chase, you win 4-2 in celebrity birthdays. Well done,
Thank
buddy.
you. Thank you so much.
Well done. All right, that ends it for today. Chase, I will take you from here real quick. To our guys out there, we say every show, if you're struggling, please reach out and talk to somebody. You can call us or call 988 on your cell phone. Always somebody there to talk to you. We'll talk to you anytime, anywhere. Again, we tell you every show, you are tremendously loved, and you would be missed more than you'll ever know. Trust me on this. We love you and know that.
Amen to that. Peace, love, rock and roll. Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace coming up next here at 102.5, 106.3 The Game.